he's the best short story writer in English right now.
Because this is where his voice really soars. It's this kind of compression of experience, something that might take someone else an entire novel to explore.
Very often you can't say that someone writes in a special way and he's the only one doing it, but in George's case you can't say that.
He's actually the writer who can move you to tears as well as make you laugh out loud.
About 1999, I was reading Pastoralia at my desk, and I just remember thinking as I read that story, I need to work with this person before I die.
I'm honored to know him. I love his writing.
But we could make it happier. We could say, for sale, baby shoes, worn out.
Because you kept them on the baby too long. I'm struck by his kindness.
Went up to the corner, and there was the People magazine. And I picked it up, and there was an article about Ray Carver and Jay McInerney and this thing called a creative writing program, which I'd never heard of before. So I applied. I sent them 3 stories. One of them was good, and it had been published. And it was real crazy. I think Toby, he'd written about that, but he said he kind of just came across it in a pile and went, what? But he saw something in that one and was willing to fight for it. Before, I had been thinking maybe I'm a writer. I'd like to be. I hope I will be. And the most moving thing to me was that the teachers, and this is Tobias Wolff and Douglas Unger, when they were with you, you were a fellow artist. And that was so moving, and I've never forgotten the sort of transformative effect that had. And also I met my wife here. We met here and got engaged in 3 weeks in the romantic Syracuse ambiance, and been married 26 years now, so that was the best thing of it of all.
In great art and great literature, you lift your face from the page and the world looks different. And I lift my face from a page of Saunders, and I'm kind of called to be better than I am.
There's a veracity to what he's writing because he's writing things as he sees them. But there's also this undercurrent of kindness and generosity that really, I think, makes these things resonate with people on an emotional level.
George poses complicated moral problems, and he has people trying to do heroic things. He has heroes who are actually heroes. They're not anti-heroes.
I think life is kind of wonderful and also amazingly harsh at times, and so I spent a lot of time thinking about that. How can it be so beautiful and so harsh simultaneously?
He is a short story writer. He's not a novelist. He has really taken the story form and made that what he does.
If you give me 8 pages, I get really excited and try to make them 6. I started having luck in my work when I finally kind of gave in to the comic side of myself, and that's when people started responding to it.
What you have had us do, negotiate inferior contracts, act against our own healthy self-interest, don't talk crazy. Please talk sense. Many of us have student loans to repay.
People who write fiction bring something to nonfiction that is really special, and I just had a sense that George would do that as well.
I went to live for a week in a homeless camp in Fresno to do a nonfiction story, and went in kind of thinking, yeah, this will be pretty easy, I'll knock this one out. And it was so terrifying and profound, because suddenly you're back in touch with the real world. And when I came back to fiction, I suddenly had a lot of junk cleared away.
So when he got to academia, he wasn't one of those guys trying to get out of a tweed suit. He was a guy trying to get into one, and was really born to teach.
To go in and hang out with a bunch of really brilliant, 26-year-olds who freshly believe in the power of art. So to be able to give the blessing that I received is really, really a daily wonder in my life.
What I regret most in my life are failures of kindness. To the extent that you can, err in the direction of kindness. Do those things that incline you toward the big questions and avoid the things that would reduce you and make you trivial.
Published online by the New York Times, they had more than 1 million visits on that website.
So many people responded to, in which his message was really just try to be kind.
I sent George's commencement speech to everybody in my staff. The morning I read it, I sent it to everybody, and I said, I am not sending this commencement speech to you because you need to hear it, but because every living person needs to hear it.
I keep on my desk this book cover of the New York Times. It said in January, remember, in January it said, the best book you're going to read this year. George's book got to #2 on the New York Times, which is the list that matters. And for a literary book of short stories, remember, to achieve that is astonishing.
Writing has become such a deep part of how I get to my own limits. It makes me happy. I actually get into kind of a much more humane place in my head when I'm working, and now I'm really ready to do the real work ahead.
Really, I just love to see him, doing what he does with language, which is the really crucial element of his work.
Every time a project ends, I feel a real sense of loss, and I think, what's the next thing we're going to be working on so that I can talk to George again?
George is an industry now. So I spent half my life talking about how great George is, and I don't even really need to since everybody seems to know it.
Anything George writes, I'll want to publish. There's nobody better.
So I think what I'm trying to learn as I get older is to enjoy that cycle. And wherever you are, just go, oh yeah, I'm at that place again. And then the goal would be just do that until I'm 190 and then, die and have him put a period on my best story and just, with no pain also.